Welcome to Panda Head Studios. Join the Panda Force by hitting that subscribe button. Helps us out a lot. Today we're talking about Jujutsu Kaisen episode 23, The Origin of Blind Obedience 2.
So this episode is a lot of fun for me. There have been a couple that have been more enjoyable overall, but really what I love about this is the bulk of this episode is all about Fujigoro. It's all about the techniques he uses. We get to see some new ones, which are awesome, by the way. They're so good. And it's him fighting the curse that has a sister marked. It has other people marked. It's a lot of fun. And the only other thing that happens in this is we also, like, after his fight, we do get a bit of an expansion on his backstory, and a very, in my opinion, probably one of their better setups for a next episode. This episode really feels like it concluded its own story. And here's like a 30-second teaser of what's coming next, and that was it. Like, it wasn't like some of the others where it cut off midway or something like that.
It's one of the few times that I was not upset at the ending and being like, I need to go into the future and watch it. Like, I really loved just the opening where it shows Itadori fighting with the curse that was sent by Mojito. And Itadori and it are like running through the domain, the incomplete domain that's from the actual curse that they were after. And they're just having like this really awesome fight, and you just see Itadori's a lot more confident in himself. And then the way they also depict Nobara through like that whole thing to where she's she's not so arrogant, even though she's having a really easy time, where she's literally playing whack-a-mole with her big hammer.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, that is very true. And I think the probably for me, another the standout moment to me about specifically Nobara's confidence, mostly just because like the reason I was drawn to hers more is mostly because we haven't seen a ton of her. Like, she's been in episodes, but she hasn't been an active participant a lot. Like, we've seen a lot of.
She's totally underdeveloped and underutilized, and just kind of there.
Exactly. Whereas for Itadori, we've seen his confidence grow over time. We're seeing where that comes from. So, like, yeah, it was great seeing that it's still there. But like Nobara's, my favorite part of it is she ends up getting pulled out of the domain by something, and Fujigoro immediately freaks out and is about to try and go rescue her. And she's like, no, you worry about this. I'll take care of whatever's outside. It's fine. Because Fujigoro has this habit of overthinking and overanalyzing, worrying about everything.
And he's actually overprotective.
A
flaw I wasn't aware of. Because they developed him so well until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Just being critical on a show that I was absolutely in love with.
You're absolutely right. Like, they did poorly develop him until this episode and the one before it. Like, this is where you get his development. It's,
Yeah, well, all you got of his development is Sukuna going, "You're important, dude. You're the reason I'm not destroying the world at this moment."
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's his character development. And he's the experienced student, and then they introduce Nobara.
Who is there?
Yeah, who's that?
I do hope that they go more in
the
her
last
life.
episode of the season is going to be. It's not going to be some cool thing.
No,
it's going to be Nobara's backstory.
I know.
Like her proper backstory. We know about her backstory, but like proper, like a Fujigoro, you had an awareness, like a proper.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it at this rate. But after she gives him that advice and gets pulled out, Itadori and the curse that Mahito sent out also end up leaving. And we do end up seeing them at the end of the episode, but that's basically the last of... I think there's a quick scene at some point where we see Nobara for like 30 seconds. But it ultimately is a fight between Fujigoro and the WhackaMole curse. Like, I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, that's what they call it, I'm pretty sure.
Well, they just keep... They don't call it Whack-A-Mole curse. They just keep talking about like how dealing with it is like playing Whack-A-Mole, because it keeps like popping out of the ground and like out of the sea. Like it
looks like little diglets that have a white stripe on their head.
Yeah, and it looks like they're attacking it like it's Whack-A-Mole. And Fujigoro ends up dealing with the ones that keep popping out. And when he finishes that, he sort of thinks that it's done. But then it occurs to him that the domain hasn't, this incomplete domain hasn't collapsed. So clearly he hasn't destroyed the main body. And then main body shows up and it looks exactly like Curse Womb, which freaks out Fushigoro, puts him on a back foot, because when he first fought Cursed Womb, it was crazy powerful and insanely dangerous, but it had just been born like a day ago. Whereas now this particular copy of it has had 6 months to kill people, had 6 months to grow in power. So he's freaked out because it's clearly going to be far stronger, and it is. It's way stronger than the original one. And we get a flashback to Fushigoro training with Satoru, and Satoru is a very confusing person now. Like, I liked it when we didn't really get backstory with him because he was just this enigmatic, weird person.
Who was
now,
up to something?
Yeah, now we're seeing he's always been an enigmatic, weird person who's always been up to something, but also says some horrible things to people. Because like this particular scene, like they're training and talking, and it clearly takes place just after the baseball event because they're talking about the fact that Fushigoro did a bunt, and whereas Itadori or Satoru would have gone for a home run. Why you like it's a lot of this stuff, and Satoru is like, yeah, that makes sense in baseball because it's a team sport, but Jujutsu Sorcery is a solo sport. And, Fushigoro's, but we work.
The last, 5 major fights have been team fights.
Yeah, and even Fujigoro mentions the fact that, cooperating with fellow sorcerers is important, and Satoru is like, you're not wrong. Up until the point you die, because as many allies as you gain, when you die, you will always be alone. They're also talking partially about Fushigoro's fighting style and the fact that he can't imagine a stronger version of himself. He can't, it's very clear he kind of wants to attain the same kind of power level that Satoru has, but because he has limited imagination and he can't picture himself being that powerful. He may want it, but he can't picture it. And we find out that, part of his fighting style and the way he fights in the wild, is that, and Satoru really does this, and actually it's a really great line, is dying to win and risking death to win are two very different things. And it's true, because, we find out that during the fight with this Cursed Womb lookalike, Fushigoro gets the crap kicked out of him. He's bloody, he's up against a wall, he's teetering on the edge of giving up. And so he's about to activate what's called a sacred treasure, which we really don't know too much about. He just starts to activate it. And then he flashes back to some things that Sukuna told him about the fact that why'd you run away? That's a waste of talent. It's all the nitpicky things that Sukuna had told him after he fought, well, not even fought, ran from Cursed Womb the first time. And I love it because Fushigoro kind of loses it. And that's really where my favorite part is we get this just crazy grin on his face, and he's just done. He's done being restrained by who he was. And is you know what? No. And I forget his exact words, but they're so much fun because he's like, you know what? Screw this, I'm just going to collect all my curse power, and it's just, as soon as I'm collecting it, I'm going to pour it out in my shadow, and I'm just going to keep doing this again and again and again until I'm not going to worry about form, I'm not going to worry about a perfect look, I'm just doing this. Because with foundation and imagination, I'll make something happen. And we get to see his domain, well,
partial domain.
Yes, which is Chimera Shadow Garden. Which looks so good. I love the shadows seeping out of him.
Oh, that whole thing was cool. One thing real quick that I thought was very important about that is he realizes that's pointed out to him, he's willing to say, because both Sukuna and Satoru mentioned to him he wants to sacrifice himself. That was the point of the bunt story. And that's how with Sukuna's words, he puts it together what the true meaning of that means. Is he didn't understand, he was willing to sacrifice himself to accomplish whatever goal he had, but he realizes he's not giving it up his all. He's not truly tapping in, and that's where Sukuna's word reinforces and why he's able to access the domain. And I think that's such a great depiction of like understanding why he was such a quiet and reserved person because he cared. He's one of those people who has heart on his sleeve, so he's just quiet, so he never reveals how much he cares.
Yeah, and I'm really loving his character. Like even more. Like I was excited to see what Sukuna wanted out of him. Now I'm getting to see it.
I'm still waiting for him to touch Rudder Itadori so Sukuna can escape. Still waiting for
I know.
because that's what's gonna happen. I promise you.
It is. And we get to see the fight majorly play out now, where so it turns out that like with his partial domain, he's able to basically create like a like pseudo versions of his Shikigami because they're actually made of the shadow now. They're like normally when he summoned the frogs or things like that, they actually had color to them. Now they're just like these black ooze masses that are grabbing onto this curse womb lookalike. The only time we see there's two of his Shikigamis we see that actually have color and form to them, which is Nue.
And there's like 5 of them.
And there's like yeah, which is not something we've seen him do before. We've only ever seen him summon one version of Nue.
Well, and Nue was destroyed. He said Nue was destroyed, so his domain allows him to use.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
domain.
I missed that. That's
Yeah, the frog was
that's
destroyed too. I thought.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we also get to see the fact that like he can meld into the shadow pool because
He's a shadow man.
yes, and he ends up like tricking and throwing this curse boom knockoff off guard so that Demon Dog Totality can destroy its core, and which he figures can happen because it was able to wound Hanami. Like that's why he suspects that if Demon Dog Totality can wound Hanami, which is a high level special grade curse, there's no reason it shouldn't be able to just like, yes, technically Curse Wound is a special grade curse, but it's clearly not as strong as Hanami.
Well, Hanami has a personality where this is still just a mindless killing machine.
Exactly. And he ends up winning the fight, and then of course doing
cliched anime pass out.
Yeah,
I regret nothing. Now let me flashback.
Yes,
and the flashback is pretty much totally pointless and reinforces most of the stuff you already have. We've already learned about Fujigoro. It's cooler though, like he's sitting on a pile of bullies and stuff, kind of like Sukuna. It's like,
I love that. I legit love that parallel. Like as much as this, like most of his backstory right here, I'm kind of like we already knew all this. Like I love that little parallel.
And you get a little flash of Sukuna, kind of like Mr. Burns. Excellent.
Yeah,
like he's excited that he's seeing Fushigoro's potential. So and even though Sukuna has not been seen in this show for like 15 episodes now, I'm kind of sad about that. His character seems really cool, but I like him being in the shadows. After they get through that part of the backstory, they transition to new backstory, which is intermixed between flashbacks of a sister, which I did not care about.
Nah,
because it's like, oh, he has a sister. I already knew. She's not important because they didn't let her really talk.
Yeah.
But then they also have Satoru talking to Fushiguro as a kid, basically mocking him for being sold into slavery, and his only way out is joining him.
Yeah, and like I said, like now that we're getting more backstory stuff with Satoru, he's kind of a messed up dude.
Yeah, total.
Like, I still love him. He's still hysterical, but he's kind of twisted.
Yeah, and then it cuts to like this really cool part where you get a little bit of Nobara's fight, where what appears to be a cursed user, and he's like bouncing away from her attacks, where she's like swinging her hammer and shooting nails at him, and he's refusing to show her back, and she's just talking trash to him. And then as soon as he like explains to her that he's not interested, she could run away, and he's not going to go after her. He was sent there for another reason, which is heavily implied that he's after the Sukuna finger.
No, he actually said this one.
Oh,
yeah, he actually specifies he's there for the cursed finger.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's there for the cursed finger, and then immediately Itadori and the curse he was fighting, which is like that weird curse you saw at the end of the first episode.
Yeah, it's the curse wound death painting that Mahito created.
And then they see his back, and the one curse who like sees him as a brother. So I'm assuming they're both curse wound death.
I'm assuming he's the second death painting. Yeah.
Yeah, or in some way linked or something like that. And then Itadori Like he freaks out too seeing it, but at first
Well,
I was like, "Why is he freaking
I
out?"
think it's because of like how how the
And they react in like an anime way, not in like it's like that, like they're it's like way overboard. It's still fine though. And then when they show his back, he's got a big face on his back that's like this bony maw that's so cool looking, and then it ends. And I'm not mad. I'm actually genuinely excited and actually willing to be patient because this episode was completed and then it led in. Here's the rest of the fight. It wasn't like
here's the next fight that's coming up. Yeah,
here's a fight. It wasn't like a fight you are interested in.
And it wasn't, hey, we're gonna start that fight. We're literally just gonna like It was essentially a teaser for the fight. It's, hey, here's our next combatants. Okay, we're ending the episode. That was it, and that's fine. But like there are other episodes that they've done where it's like, we're gonna show off like a minute of the fight and then we're ending.
Yeah, and it's like the Itadori and Toto fight. I really feel like they shortchanged that fight.
Yeah.
For what little they showed, they shortchanged it because they clearly were going at it for quite a while, and they cut it short. But
overall, I would say this particular episode was enjoyable. I liked it more than the baseball stuff.
Oh yeah.
And even a couple of the other episodes, but that's just because like I enjoy Fujigoro as a character. I do wish that they hadn't reiterated some of the backstory stuff we already knew. Like, we were already told he beat up bullies. Seeing the fact that he's sitting on a pile of bullies, like, I get the symbolism there. That's great. I wish they hadn't told us he beat up bullies beforehand.
Well, it just feels like they gave him a story arc in 2 episodes and wrapped it up in a neat little bow real quick, rather than giving him subtle pieces when he's clearly a main and an important character. But he's probably going to end up like Kuwabara on Yu Yu Hakusho, where he's just important because he's got magic powers and not important because he's a person who's turning into a person, and then they write him off after he served his purpose.
Yeah, I hope they don't do that.
Yeah.
But we'll find out.
Yeah, and I look forward to it. Thank you for watching.
Have a good one. So, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And while you're there, since you are now part of the Panda Force, please don't forget to hit that bell icon for your future orders.
If you're interested in joining us gaming, check us out on Twitch. For future updates, follow us on Twitter. The links are in the description down below.